Hey guys, welcome back to the Not As I Do podcast with me, Tanaye White. Welcome back to another episode of Not As I Do. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I always like to start off every episode by just thanking y'all for tuning in each week. A lot of people, when I mention this podcast in conversation, they ask me if they can either one, be a guest on my show, or two, if I will have guests at all. And the answer is yes, I will have guests, and I would love to have people who are interested, especially if you guys align with mental health, of course, but then also just like personal development and like stories of like achieving or overcoming obstacles. I really want that to be the crux of this podcast. So the answer is yes, I will in the future. But for this first season, I really wanted to set the tone of the conversations that I'll be having and the topics that I'll be covering. There are going to be times where I talk about topics that are more sensitive, that may be more taboo for me to speak about, especially as a woman. So I really want to use this first season as a way to set the tone for what we're really going to be discovering here. I want this podcast to be fun, but I also want it to be valuable. And so I want to ensure that the show in the future will, reflect that. Also, it helps me to get a handle on what exactly this podcast is going to look like. I've been noodling on ways to refine this podcast, especially as it grows. I think I'm going to have a check the system moment where I talk about more politically driven things, and not in a way of persuasion by any means, but in a way of awareness, like laws that are passing that affect our livelihoods. I think it's still important to include that in this podcast and not be a podcast that steps to the side with conversations like that, simply because all of these events that are happening in our lives also impact our mental health. So it would only make sense for me to bring awareness to that as well. If you're watching this video on YouTube, be sure to give a thumbs up. And if you're listening to it on any of your audio listening platforms or podcast listening platforms, do me a favor and give me a 5-star review if you think it's warranted. Obviously, I am developing in this space, but even words of encouragement go a long way. So thank you guys again, and let's get into the vibe check. While I would really love to roast Ilania Musty for the filth that she is, I promised myself that I would not allow the events that are happening over the next 4 years to stress me out. I'm not going to allow it to pull me out of my character, and I'm not going to allow it this space on any of my platforms. Now, I know that I just said I am going to be having a political segment, but again, I do not want to address things in a way of persuasion, only fact. Me roasting Ilania Musty would be lots of persuasion, and I'm sure from episode 2 you could only guess how I feel. And let's not forget, episode 1, I roasted Mark Zuckerberg. I called him out. I used his name. So, there's a lot of emotion. You can see it now on my face and my body language, like I'm getting tense. I'm not going to roast that raggedy SOB. I'm trying not to swear as much. So yes, that raggedy SOB, gutter snipe, Calvin Klein loving, wackadoodle. There are much more important matters for us to cover right now. In just a few days, it will be Black History Month, which is the shortest month of the year, but also the best, next to May, because of course, my birthday. Shout out to anyone who's a Taurus. But Black History Month is coming.
Editor's note, I know that it is now Black History Month at the time that you see this and at the time that is uploaded. Pardon.
And oftentimes when I think of Black History Month, I think of the brands that I've worked with in the past and how their initiatives have either been awesome and effective or surface level and leaving much wanted. I remember specifically in 2020, during the peak of the pandemic, a beauty brand reached out to me. And this is a beauty brand whose products are actually really good and I like. And they reached out ahead of Black History Month and asked for me to do a reel of their products with no pay. The pay would be me receiving the products. And then on top of that, they wanted me to publish this during Black History Month because it was going to have a Black History type spin on it. And they wanted me to do this for free. And I said yes. This was also in the progression of me in the first year of being a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model. So there were a lot of brands that were reaching out to me to partner with. And this one email and this one partnership really sticks out to me because I sat with it for weeks after I said yes, like a nagging bug in the back of my mind. And I thought to myself, they want me to publish this post for Black History Month, but not pay my black ass. They want to use my black ass to promote their products, but behind the scenes, they don't even give a damn enough to pay my black ass. And I sat with this. And this is just months after George Floyd was murdered, after Breonna Taylor was murdered. This is just 6 months or so after this. And me in this fight with myself of how do I want to present and respond as a Black woman in those times at that moment, I decided that I wanted to use my voice. So I responded after saying yes. Maybe it was a week or two later. I had responded and I told them, given the times that we're in, and I had listed out the times we were in, because why would you ever in your right mind ask me to create content for Black History Month and expect it for free? So I detailed, while I appreciated them reaching out to me, I did find them expecting me to do this for free offensive, especially given that their products are in Sephora stores all across the world. And I told them to please let me know what is the best way I can return the packaging, as I had yet to open it yet. I was shaking in my boots when I sent that email because I was like, oh my God, I'm speaking up. I hope this didn't come off as me being an angry Black woman. Oh, but I felt like it was my right to do this because it's wrong. All of these thoughts were going through my head. I was very anxious about it. They did give a light form of what you would call a corporate apology, and they said that I could keep the products. And I haven't used the products since. And I think there's a lot to take away from that. So given that we are in this new era, good old 2025, I would be negligent if I did not use this platform right now to say to every Black person who is listening to my voice right now, you better not accept a single partnership this month for anybody. For free. Play with somebody else. But we're not doing that this year. Now, obviously, we should be taking this stance across the board, but we're going to start with baby steps. This is baby step number 1. Black History Month. I don't want to see a single post promoting an organization who has supported what is going on right now. I'm talking about Palestine. I'm talking about Me Too. I'm talking about the little black boxes that everyone had on their Instagram that have, oh wow, surprisingly disappeared since. I'm talking election donors. I'm talking about all of them. So do your research. Understand who you are uplifting. Yeah, this makeup brand may be called this, but who are they owned by? Many companies are owned by a larger corporation. You know, the billionaires. If there is any time for you to start using your voice, it is now, it is with your time, and it is with your money. You existing are a form of currency. Act like it. Stop accepting the bare minimum. Matter of fact, let me look into the screen because I like to look to the side camera. Let me come here. You are worth so much more than free publicity. If you don't believe it, I'm telling it to you now. There is power within you. There is power in your words. There is power in your time. There is power in your labor. Put it where it can go the furthest. And put it where it can help yourselves and your loved ones the most. That is all I ask. I'm not going to chastise or lament on this any longer. I simply want us to start standing on fucking business. Because a lot of y'all are complaining about Mr. Musty, but y'all were so eager just a few years ago, to have a Tesla in your driveway. Meanwhile, he's been posting anti-Semitic comments for years before you got that Tessie, baby. I'm not saying to sell your car. I'm just saying let's start standing on real business. And that starts with your labor, and that starts with them showing you some motherfucking coin. Stop playing with me. Come on. I know y'all love it when I get a little spicy, but do I really need to say this? How much is your Wi-Fi? What is that, $50? How much is your phone bill? What is that? I'm gonna estimate $100. You pay $10 a month for Facetune or InShot or CapCut or Canva to put all this together, whatever task they ask you to do. Adobe Suite is like $80 a month. They're literally sucking the money out of us. It costs money just for you to post the video for them. Free? Free? Baby. No. Mm-mm. Thank you. For this week's deep dive, I wanted to talk about confidence. I feel like people typically describe me as a confident person, and I 100% agree with that. I'm a confident person for sure, but I wasn't always like this. While I was a kid, I was very insecure, very self-conscious, very mousy. I didn't speak up for myself as much as I wanted to. I internalized a lot of the things that I wish I had the courage and the confidence to voice and vocalize. But by the time I was a teenager and I was really like killing it with sports, with school, and all of the things that I was in, I recognized that I had a lot more confidence. I felt more secure in myself than ever. Growing up, I felt very insecure about my looks. Being the only Black girl in my hometown, it was very challenging for me to consider myself beautiful. It was difficult for me to consider myself normal. And a lot of my childhood, while it was amazing, was me overanalyzing why I'm different. And while I don't see myself as being wrong or stupid or ugly or anything like that, the people around me and the community around me was saying I was it. And I think that also in turn empowered me to work harder. That's why I was in advanced placement classes and excelled in a lot of the things that I've done. I put that pressure on myself to disprove what people were trying to box me in to be. But now I feel like it's different for people who are my age to build confidence now. I feel like in today's times, with technology being at our fingertips, it's really difficult to find confidence in yourself, in your full natural born self. I say that because I know that there's this trend right now with young girls and guys too getting filler at younger and younger ages, which really worries me because you still have your baby fat in your face even when you're 20. Your body doesn't stop growing ever, but like at least allow your frontal lobe to develop before you start modifying your body. Like, look at what your body is about to become before you change it, But I feel like with social media and with the internet and with television shows, streaming shows, YouTube, all of these platforms give you access to see more reasons why to hate yourself. And I really worry for people. We know that there's higher rates of depression now more than ever. People across the world, honestly, are unwell. There's a such thing as financial depression. A lot of people are experiencing that right now, obviously. Teenage youth are the most depressed and suicidal that they've ever been in history, or at least on record. So it's really scary out here. And so I wanted to share this space to talk about confidence, what it means to me, and I guess ways to really get it back if you feel like you've lost it. I feel like this conversation would be applicable to both young viewers, listeners, and older visitors, users, listeners. I am 32, for those of you who don't know, and I feel very young. I feel like I'm 20, but at the same time, I've gone through a lot of things. I would say one of the biggest obstacles in my life was finding my confidence. And so if there's a way for me to share even a bit of what I did to help y'all, I would love to do that today. What does confidence mean to me? To me, confidence means you got it in the bag. Like, you got it in the bag. Like, it mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, energetically. You just carry this aura of, I guess you could say it's a mixture of pride and happiness and peace and maybe a few other things, sprinkle it all in there, and you just mix it up, and your aura is this beautiful bubble of confidence. That's what confidence is to me. But the short version, I guess you could say, is you got it in the bag. Confidence to me means you got it in the bag. It's the energy that you feel after your teacher hands you your test that you worked so hard for and you got an A+, and you see that big A+ in red at the top of your paper. It's the feeling when he's blowing up your phone telling you for the 13th time that he didn't cheat on you. Meanwhile, last night while he was sleeping, you screenshotted receipts, so you're confident in turning him down and stepping away for the final time. Confidence is proudly returning your shoes back, knowing that you haven't worn them, so they're not going to fight you with giving you your money back. Like, those are all versions of confidence to me. But personally, that feeling, all of those feelings there within you, that's the feeling when I think of confidence. I come from a very confident family. My parents are very confident. My brother is extremely braggadocious, but I love that about him. And, I have a community of confident people around me. And I think that, for one, my community inspires me to be confident for sure. To be able to see my friends thrive in their respective fields makes me so happy, and that inspires me and in turn feeds into the confidence. Also, how I present myself has always been very important to me. As a kid, I loved to match. Me and my cousin, who's like a sister cousin, our moms would match us in the same outfit, but mine would be pink, hers would be purple, or mine would be blue, hers would be pink. I've always liked looking my best. Even in high school, I would have like 5 textbooks in my backpack, but still walking around in some 4-inch stiletto heels that my mom finally allowed me to wear because I just wanted to look good. I've always been that way. One of my mottos is, you look good, you feel good, you do good. Simple as that. So even on my worst day, let's say I'm going through a breakup. I'm so sad. I'm devastated. And the next day, I will still get dressed, put on a little makeup, even if it's a bit, because I know that that's going to make me feel better. So prioritizing how you look, how you smell. I have literally so many perfumes. I have a whole perfume stand on my dresser. All of this goes a long way into you feeling good and knowing you're good and knowing you have it in the bag. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Another thing that I had to really work on growing up is my eye contact. A lot of my friends joke now that I have creepy eyes or intense eyes, some people say, when I'm listening to you and watching you speak, or, you know, just being attentive. I look, but sometimes after you speak, I guess you could blame it on my autism a little bit, I'm still processing it in my brain. It's almost like dial-up connection. Like, you know, I'm just, the text message came into my brain slow and I'm processing it still. It may say delivered on your side, but it doesn't say it on my side yet. And so while that's happening in my brain, I will like maybe hold my gaze, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Sometimes pauses in conversation are healthy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see what's wrong with it, but I often am told that my eyes are intense. But yeah, growing up, it was very hard for me to hold eye contact. I didn't feel strong enough to meet their gaze, you know? It's funny to say. But now I do my best to stop that. Absolutely stop that. I think sports really helped me with changing that, because, you know, you have to make eyes with the judges, or, you know, look at your coach when she's speaking to you, or things like that. But it's very socially difficult for me still, even to this day, to do it, especially in new surroundings. Like, let's say I'm at a networking event or at a bar and, you know, I'm around people who I'm not familiar with. I struggle to hold eye contact, especially if it's a person who I know isn't approaching me in a form of interest, like they're trying to get my number or something. When I can feel that energy, I have no problem holding my eye contact. But when it's like in passing, like let's say I'm walking down the sidewalk, maybe it's a New York thing, but I don't look at people. Like, I'll look at your shape, your figure. Like, my brain will say that's a person walking by, or a person in a red jacket coming to you, but I won't actually like focus my eyes in on the person to see, you know, their face, meet their gaze, because it makes me uncomfortable. But even then, I'm trying to stop myself from doing that, because God forbid something happens. It's crazy out here. You need to be aware and fully cognizant of your surroundings. And so while I do describe myself as a aware person, you have to be living in the city, I will say when it comes to like meeting eyes, it's still something that makes me uncomfortable, but when I do it with people who I'm comfortable with, I seem to overdo it. I don't know. Clearly, I just am missing the mark, whichever way you look. But yeah, eye contact is a perfect example of how to communicate confidence. Often when I was a teenager growing up, I would just stare at myself in the mirror. I think that also helped as well. I would practice my cheer faces. A-E-I-O-U. Like I said, sports help out a lot, but I will also just stare in the mirror and just analyze myself. What does it look like to be on the other side of receiving my gaze? You know what I mean? Like, how does that feel? Even when I record video here and like I'm sort of like, you know, doing something for a second, I see myself, I watch how I behave, I see what people are talking about. So, you know, I've done the research on myself to understand myself, but I encourage you to do it for yourself as well. It makes you a more aware person, aware of yourself, aware of how you move in this space. I remember maybe in middle school when I started having haters who would just pick on me for no reason. I remember this one time. I had this shirt from American Eagle. It was this yellow shirt and on it was a rainbow and it says, "Tomorrow brings another sun." And I remember seeing this shirt in the store and thinking to myself, this would be amazing to wear because I love it so much. I love the message. And my first thought in American Eagle, as I purchased this shirt that was on sale, was, I know if I wear it, so-and-so would totally say something about it. And if you've ever been bullied or constantly made fun of growing up, you'll know what that feeling is. And so for me, I will never forget this day. I was in French class. I think this was maybe 7th grade. French teacher has stepped out for a second. She was so awesome. I love her so much. And everyone was just kikiing. And I remember this girl, we were like nice nasty. Like, she was cool. Like, out of all the cool people in the class, it was her and me. So it's like, we didn't have much to work with, but I wasn't really vibing with her, and she was just sort of putting up with me. But I remember she turns around and says, "Tomorrow brings another sun," reading my shirt, and goes, "What does that mean?" And so, because again, rewind, I had already thought about this bitch asking me this question, pardon my language, but you know, these are the words going through my head as a kid as well, you know. I had spent nights, and I mean nights, thinking to myself, what is something witty I could say back to her just in case she tries to shame me for this shirt, or, you know, like play me, or, you know, make fun of me or whatever. I said something along the lines of, I don't know, why don't you figure it out? And I will never forget the look on her face when she was taken aback that I finally, like, checked her. Like, why don't you write it down in your trapper keeper? Write a note and go back home and Google it. But I had built confidence in myself by preparing myself for my haters. A lot of times what I would do as a kid, which also had a negative impact on the back end, but I would stare in the mirror and just critique myself. What is something negative that anyone could say about myself? I would also, at the same time, look at everything that I loved about myself. I have always loved my eyes. I have always loved my clavicles. I love my clavicles. I hate my biceps, but everyone else seems to love him, so that's a whole complicated situation. We can totally get into insecurities too. I've never had an issue with my hair except for the fact that I felt like it couldn't grow. But of course, it's just because I wasn't taking care of it properly. I have little chicken dots on my legs. I never liked that. I always loved my fingers. I love having long, skinny fingers. I love my unidimple. I love my teeth. I used to have buck teeth. I sucked my finger for 12 years, y'all. 12 years. So I have buck teeth, had to get braces. That also helped build my confidence because I really didn't want braces. But then once I realized I could match them with my shirt, I would always have teal t-shirts from Hollister, so I would always have teal braces. That was like my thing, with a little satin ribbon in my hair to match, you know, cheerleaders. We love our bows. But I'm like, those are all things that I did to build confidence. I just went down the list of what I liked about myself, but I also looked at what others could possibly say to me. I remember, I think I was in 3rd grade when I first got made fun of for my nose. And it literally wasn't until maybe a year ago that I finally decided that I don't want to go through with a nose job. But there are a lot of things that, again, leave wounds on you, leave scars on you. So I really had to learn how to protect myself. And so I did that by tearing myself down. You're ugly. Your hair nappy. You're black. Nobody's gonna like you. You ain't all that. You ain't that smart. I literally threw everything at myself, and I had to learn how to, like tennis, I had to learn how to defeat it. And so when it came to me walking out into the world, going to school, being in classrooms with evil ass teenagers, I could finally defend myself. But of course, that took years for me to build. That took so many years for me to build. And I didn't have anything to distract myself. So it was just me and my thoughts. Now we have phones, we have social media apps, we have video games. Of course we have video games back then, but not the way that it is now. We didn't have Twitch. We didn't have any of that. So I really was able to go the distance and dig deep and really figure out why I like myself, and things that others may not like about me. And so I would totally encourage other people to do that. I think it is a very raw way, but also a very insightful way to just take a look at yourself in totality. But also just really be gentle with yourself. As hard as you are on yourself, try to match that with your gentleness. That's something that has always been a struggle for me to this day. And often when I'm in relationships, my partners will call it out how I am very hard on myself and I don't reward myself mentally enough. I think I might have mentioned it in a previous episode how once I achieve something, it's just like, all right, what's next? I don't allow it to soak in. Just really love on yourself. It's easy to be hard on yourself. It's hard to love on yourself. I'm sure everyone can relate to that statement. And I want to be sure that I emphasize that because over the years, I recognize that I do just that. I tear down myself more than I love on myself. Of course, I love on myself, but I could certainly do better and I could totally do more. And it's not even in things where it's like I'm really evil to myself. It's in those little things like, oh, I'm so stupid. How could I forget that? Or when you make a mistake, you allow it to take over your whole day rather than just accepting it for what it is, learning from it, and then moving forward. It's very hard for me to snap out of failures. It's hard for me to compliment myself. It's very hard for me to be soft to myself. And I think it's just because maybe I've overtrained myself to be hard and be prepared that it kind of backfired a bit. But if there's anything I could take away from that and give to y'all, it would be to totally love on yourself. If you think you're doing enough, you're not. I promise you. Do a bit more. Learn from me, please, because I don't want people to feel this way. I would love to not have these thoughts. I would love to feel value outside of the things that I develop or earn, but those are all personal struggles of my own that I have to work through. But for you and whatever you're going through, if you haven't thought of it, or maybe it just hasn't been something you really thought about, think about how softly you talk about yourself. One thing that I've had to teach myself in therapy is to applaud myself. So I will literally physically give myself a pat on the back for the smallest things. If I wash the dishes, if I shower that day, because sometimes it's hard for me to shower. You know, depression is a real thing. If I cleaned up my room of the pile of clothes that were just sitting in the corner for the last 2 weeks, I'll pat myself on the back for all of those things. So I've learned. I found my coping mechanisms, but I encourage you guys to look into yourselves as well and see how you truly are talking to yourself, because confidence really starts with that. But as positive as I am giving you with this advice, I also wanted to mention the defense that you do have to develop. You have to be, like I said, you have to be prepared for the worst. And that just only makes you more aware as a person. And I feel like it also makes you more empathetic because you understand what is coming. You can also understand what's going. I think it's a beautiful thing to have. But that said, everyone and their mother knows that there are shitty ass people in this world. There are people in this world who just don't want to see you do well. There are people in this world who just don't like the way your eyes look. They don't like the way your hair smells. They don't like the way your toes curl. There are people who just don't like your being. And it's always going to be that way. And sometimes people take it too far and they have to be checked. And I think that it can get really nasty. I feel like what we see online, what we see with things like baddies or like these sick, sad shows like Love is Blind, which I love to watch, we see people sometimes acting in a way that is not so classy. And I feel like we're losing our way with that. There are ways to still drag a bitch, but say it eloquently. So when, again, going back to my teenage years, I'm staring in this mirror. I don't know, what do you think this means? I don't know, what do you think my shirt means? I don't know, figure it out. I would practice. How would I read back to a person who tried me? Let's say someone said, why your feet look like that? Because if someone were to make fun of my feet, I'd be like, and why does your breath stink? Why are you in my business? What do you want? Or why are you so focused on me when it looks like your hair hasn't been washed in 3 days? You have bigger fish to fry. Focus on yourself. It comes to you more quickly. And you don't have to go, mother, beep, 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 beep. No cursing. Wow. And guess what? You still get your point across and it still hurts. Matter of fact, it hurts even more. it like sizzles. It's like a lashing, but it's like a little acid. Damn, she just read me without even cursing. Dang. That's confidence, baby. That's how you get confidence. I hope people don't think I'm a bad influence. But it's true. The best way to be confident is to be prepared. So if you prepare for your haters to come, you can prepare, go into your arsenal. Oh yeah, that one worked well with that lady I cussed out at the grocery store a couple weeks ago. Let me use that one. That's how I do it. If you want to know how to be confident like me, that's how I do it. I'm just saying. You don't have to take my word. You don't have to do it. I'm just saying that's how I did it. And I'm pretty sure it has a high success rate. I'm just saying. I think I also learned confidence from the women in my family. On my mom's side, the women they're some of the most essential people and important people in my life, as well as my cousins and my uncles. Honestly, everybody. I have a very strong, confident family. Like my uncles, they're boastful, they're successful. My aunts, they're hot. They don't look their age. They have stories for days that just make me laugh. They've always been like this. I've always been around people who have been confident themselves, and I've learned that sort of intuitively just through being around them all the time for years and years and years of my life. I recognize that there are people who don't have that privilege, and for the people who unfortunately don't have that privilege, firstly, my heart goes out to you. While I don't understand it directly, I do understand it in certain ways because both of my parents come from tough beginnings. My dad grew up in the Bronx in the 60s and 70s, and my mom grew up in inner city Baltimore in the same time period. So they often tell me stories of what they did not have and what they had to go through. But my heart really goes out to you. And, you know, family isn't always through blood. Family can be built as well. So even if you have friends who just inspire you, that's a beautiful way for you to slowly start building your confidence by just seeing how they are. Some of my friends who built the most confidence within me were my funniest friends, the ones who even made the teachers laugh. Friends like that really helped me gain confidence as well. Seeing them do it, seeing them try it out, seeing how the room reacts and laughs at them also instilled in me, oh, I can be funny too, or I can try to joke around too. So even if you may not be born into a supportive, confident, loving family who can really nurture you fully, I hope that you are blessed with the privilege to build a community of friends and loved ones who can do that for you. Yeah. And I think also writing, like I said in many episodes before, I write a lot. I literally, even in this journal, I have my notes. Probably can't see it, but I just love to write. I love to write notes and stuff. I also loved just daydreaming often and developing these stories in my head, and I think all of that just really empowered me to just be a confident person and try new things, try scary things, try dreaming of this, try thinking of this, try changing your handwriting in this way. The littlest things really do make an impact on you and how you are, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the people around you and the world around you. I really would love to see people love on themselves more, and I think the best way to see it is through how they interact with others. And unfortunately, it's getting really ugly out here right now. Really ugly, really scary. And even for me, I have to remind myself to not react in such a brash way just because others may be reacting to me in a brash way. Ugly doesn't defeat ugly. It just creates more ugly. And do I want to be a part of that narrative? Absolutely not. I truly do want peace for everyone. I truly want everybody to be happy. We're all so broken in so many different ways. You know, God knows what the person who's watching or listening to me right now is going through. But the more we can show love, the more that we can heal, the more we can know peace. And so that first starts with loving yourself. And how do you do that? Through confidence. The confidence to love yourself means the confidence to love others. And that goes a long way. So I am done preaching. I am going to get off my high horse. Thank you for listening to the deep dive. thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I like to end each episode with a mindful mantra. So for this week's episode, the mindful mantra is, "You are wonderfully and beautifully made." And this is a quote from my great-grandmother, Mama, who passed away just 2 years ago, but was my favorite person in the world and my biggest supporter. I love you, Mama, and I will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!